babes, welcome to my channel. I am Maria, aka Agape Love Girl. Thank you so much for joining me today. Well, I have recently partnered with Luminess Air, which means that I have been sponsored by Luminess Air via Fire Belly Marketing to present this video to you guys. And today's video is all about airbrush eyeshadows. Now, I have posted several videos about airbrush makeup and Luminess Air reviews in the past, and they recently sent me some eyeshadows to try and demo and review for you guys. So that's exactly what I have for you guys today. I'm going to be doing a demo to show you how I got this look and talk to you guys about the pros and cons of airbrush eyeshadow. And I know that word sponsored seems so scary and intimidating, and some people don't really like it, but I want you guys to know that just because I am sponsored does not mean I'm gonna lie to you. I'm gonna give you guys all the facts, the good, the bad, and all that kind of stuff, and you guys can make your own informed decision on these products. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the demo. So to start off first, I'm going to be going into the CC Plus Airbrush Concealer in the shade Light Beige. And I just decided to do that just to kind of color correct a little bit of my dark circles first before I go in with some eyeshadow. As well, I'm going to use a little bit of this to kind of mute out one of the shadows, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So I'm going to I gave it a good shake already, and then I'm just going to drop like 4 drops here into this stylus. And then just start lightly applying that to my eyelids. And then after doing this, without pushing the button back here, I'm just going to let some of the air kind of blow out to help dry that before adding another layer. I'm just going to add another couple of drops in. And then I'm going to go in with the next shade. This is the eyeshadow in the shade number 41. I'm going to give it a good shake. Now I'm just going to add 2 drops in because you really don't need much for eyeshadow. It covers quite a bit of area. Plus I've mixed it in with the concealer. And the reason why I did that is because this shade is a very, very pigmented dark brown matte eyeshadow, and when I went into it the very first time using it alone, it was just so dark, and I wanted kind of a lighter shade to use as a transition shade. So to mix it with the concealer, I'm just going to turn the compressor on, and then what you want to do is just put your finger over this part here and then you're going to pull back the little button here. And what it will do is just kind of back the air back into the little bowl here and mix the colors together. And then I'm going to take that and start applying that to my outer corner and slowly into my crease to create kind of like an transition shade. And you want to start slow, just barely pulling your finger back on the trigger here, and do circular motions and just slowly build that color up, because it's surprising how much it kind of comes out if you're not careful. And every once in a while, just stop pulling the trigger and just let the air blow out on it to help dry and set that shadow. It definitely helps to keep your head kind of tilted back to keep your eyes looking downward. Since you're working with wet, liquidy product, you definitely want to keep your eyes mostly closed so you don't create any creases or wrinkles. Now I'm just going to kind of squint my eyes a little bit and point it upwards to try to get a little bit on my lower lash line as well. This part's a little bit more difficult because you definitely feel the air blowing in your eye a little bit more. But if you kind of just squint your eye like this and just slowly kind of go back and forth, you can kind of get it there. Okay, so now that I'm done with this color, and I'm looking kind of crazy right now, but we'll get on with it. I do have just a little bit of product left in the bowl here, so it's smart to kind of keep handy either a paper towel or a napkin. Just kind of spray the excess out onto this towel. You can see there's still quite a bit that was left in there. And then when I originally got my airbrush kit, I was also included this little bottle. It's just like a little bottle you could fill with water to help you clean your stylus in between, like how I am now sitting in a room. But if you're like in the bathroom, you can always just you know, put a little water in the sink, from the sink carefully into this, and just kind of helps you clean in between uses and switching out colors. And so to clean it up, you're just gonna again lock this little tip and then pull the trigger back, and it's gonna kind of bubble up inside the bowl here, and it kind of just cleans out, and then you just spray out that excess water to clean. So that's what I'm gonna be doing in between switching out the eyeshadows. That way I don't get the mix of colors. Unless you want to mix the colors, then you can definitely do that. So next up, I'm going to use a metallic eyeshadow for my lid, and I did receive two different metallic colors. This one is the shade 15, but I'm actually not going to use this one. I've used this one before and it's really, really beautiful, but I've also used this one too, but I decided to go with this shade for this demo because I really like it a lot too. This is shade number 28, and it's like a really pretty metallic copper. And then I'm just gonna slowly, you want to pull back. If you pull this back all the way, the product comes out quite a bit, so you want to just slowly pull it back. Ooh, yeah. And it helps to kind of lift your brows like this so you don't have any of that wrinkling or creasing on your lids, because if you do that while the product's still wet, it will crease and kind of stay that way. So like I said, tilt your head back and look down. And right now I'm just letting the air blow on it because I put out quite a bit of product on that first try. I didn't mean to. It's definitely a little bit sensitive and takes some practice. I definitely recommend just looking in a big mirror and doing this, and maybe having a small mirror handy if you need. And it's best just to layer this, go in lightly, let it dry, and then do another layer if you want a more intense color to show, just like I'm doing. And then again, I'm just going to put a little bit on the lower lash line. Okay, so next up I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting, and for highlighting I chose shadow shade number 8, and it looks like this. I wasn't sure if it was going to be matte or not, but it's not. It's definitely a metallic. It's like a really pretty white gold, and actually would probably be a really pretty like face highlighter, but it's really, really intense to be used on its own as like a brow bone highlight. So what I'm actually going to do again is take a little bit of this mixed in with the CC Plus concealer that I've been using, and that does a really great job of kind of muting and toning it down a little bit for a nice little highlight on my brow bones. What's nice about adding the concealer in with it too is you can actually do just a little bit of cleanup as well, like I normally like to do after creating regular eyeshadow makeup looks. It's just kind of cleaning up any transition shade or anything that got too high or anything like that. It kind of helps clean it up and tame it down just a little bit. Alright, and this is basically it for doing airbrush eyeshadows. I know it looks quite a mess right now, but pretty much all my looks do up until I get the rest of my face on. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of my face on, put on some mascara, and I'll be back to show you guys the completed look and everything, as well as give you kind of a wrap-up review of airbrush eyeshadows, some pros and cons, and then we'll wrap up this video. So here's the look once I put the rest of my face on. As you can tell, it pulls together pretty well and it looks really great, I think. Okay, so now that you guys have seen the full look and the demo, I did want to show you some swatches real quick of the 4 shades that I got. I'm going to do them on my arm, that way you can see them in their full pigmentation. And I wanted to do this because, like I said in the demo and did in the demo, I mixed 2 of the shades with the concealer to kind of dull it down. The pigmentation on these is like bam, major pigmentation, so I needed to dull them down a little bit, but I want you guys to be able to see the true pigmentation of these, as well as there was another shade that I didn't use that I wanted to show you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys those, and then we will get to the pros and cons that I have about these airbrush eyeshadows. Okay, so let's talk about the pros of airbrush eyeshadow. First up, I would say that it's super quick. I love how quick it is. It really doesn't take long. you know, you do have to do a little bit of work when you're switching eyeshadows, but aside from that, it's actually very, very quick and easy to use. And all the blendings like done for you. It kind of, you can, depending on the amount of pressure you pull back the little trigger, you can really get that fade or blend going just right. It's super, super quick to use. The other thing is that it's actually very easy to use. Now this does take a little bit of a learning curve and some getting used to if you're not familiar with airbrush in general. It does take a little bit of learning, which I'll get to in the cons portion of this, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually so quick, so easy to use, and you can kind of be done super quick and easy, and I think that's really, really great. So another pro is the pigmentation, which I already kind of mentioned with the swatches. The pigmentation on this is amazing. It's not going to be like where you see an eyeshadow and it looks so gorgeous in the pot and then you go put it on and you're like, where's the pigmentation? No, these, you're going to get the pigmentation. It's like just bam, metallic there. Like I said, I had to even dull down a little bit of the shadows just because the pigmentation is there and it's gorgeous. And the other thing is that these are very, very long lasting. The pigmentation and the look that you get when you put it on in the morning or whenever you put it on is going to be the same several hours later up until when you go to bed or remove your makeup. It looks just as pigmented, just as gorgeous all day long, just as vibrant. And I love that. I definitely think that is a pro. In addition to those things, I also just wanted to read from the website the Airbrush eyeshadow benefits that they have listed. So it says that the color palette flatters all skin types and tones. They have a variety of shadows and colors. It says rich colors and uniform pigment that blends and builds seamlessly, which I agree. You can definitely build up the pigmentation and layer it, and it does blend nicely. As you can see, it looks pretty seamless, and even when you're adding some over top, you can just kind of blend and fade very nicely. I love that. Weightless all day wear, it says up to 18 hours, and I agree. That kind of goes with what I said about the all day pigmentation. You definitely have that vibrant, bold look all day long that's not gonna fade. And agree, again, weightless. I was gonna mention that. Yeah, these, what's really nice about these is they're just so lightweight. You don't feel heavy or anything on your eyes. You almost feel like you're not really wearing any makeup, and I kind of like that. Airbrush technique helps eliminate cross-contamination. Water and sweat resistant, which is really, really nice as well. These are paraben free, fragrance free, and oil free, non-comedogenic. Dermatologist and ophthalmologist, wow, tested and recommended, and suitable for all skin types and never tested on animals. The other thing is that this does mention in the description that these are crease resistant. Now I mentioned this last because this is kind of go into the cons for me. Well, it doesn't say it's crease proof, but crease resistant. I would say that I did deal with a little bit of creasing because these are a liquid essentially going on to your lids, and like I mentioned in the demo, kind of tilting your head back and keeping your eyes mostly looking down, because if you do look up while the pigment is still wet, you are going to get a little bit of creasing. And then in the close-ups that I showed you on one of my eyes, I did have a little bit of creasing because I think I just didn't wait long enough for it to dry, or was still just tacky enough to where when I opened my eyes and where it naturally creases that the pigment lifted. So there is a little bit of creasing. And it's not like awful, like crazy creasing where there's, you know, no product there, but I would say you do have to be a little bit careful of creasing. You definitely want to make sure the pigment is dried fully before opening your eyes. And I would also recommend that you don't need a primer or anything like that, and I would recommend just clean, dry eyes. I know there was a time where I had just used a face oil and got a little bit on my eyes, and I thought I had wiped most of it off, but there was still a little bit of residue, and I went to use these, and then that did cause a little bit more creasing. And then again, if you put on too much product and don't let it dry, you're going to get a little bit of creasing. So that's a little bit of a con for me. It's not a major con, but it's just something to note that's worth noting for you guys, that you might need to be careful and take consideration of. Okay, so moving on with another con that I would say. Like I mentioned already, using the airbrush eyeshadows definitely takes a little bit of getting used to. You know, it's a whole new thing to use, you know, airbrush on your eyes compared to, you know, using, you know, brushes and regular eyeshadows. And the website actually isn't very helpful at all when it comes to, you know, learning how to use it or what's the proper way or how to use. There actually is a little tab that says how to use under the airbrush eyeshadows listing on the website, but it only has a video kind of demo of someone using eyeshadows, but there's no like voiceover, there's no talking, it's just set to music. So there's really no instruction on, you know, what's the best thing to do, how to start it out, or anything like that. There's really no tips at all on how to use airbrush eyeshadows, and I was kind of looking for that to see if there was anything I need to know, need to do before doing it, and there really wasn't any tips at all for doing that. So I kind of just had to dive in and learn myself through some trial and error. And as of filming this video, this is probably the 6th or 7th time actually using these airbrush eyeshadows and doing airbrush eyeshadow makeup on myself, and I've gotten quite the hang of it now. Like I said, in the pros of these, it is quite easy and quick to use, but it takes some learning and getting used to, and you know, what to do and what not to do and what's best to do. Like I said, tilting my head back, looking down, making sure I'm not putting too much product on at once and letting it just build and letting some air kind of flow over it. And the good thing is that, you know, me doing this video kind of helps anybody else out who's just learning. But I think it would be really great if Luminess Air did add like either written instructions or kind of a better demo video about how to use airbrush eyeshadows, because, you know, not everybody knows how, and it does take a little bit of learning and trial and error, and so a little bit of instruction would be really, really great. All right, and lastly for the cons is kind of another issue more so with the website, and that is just that when you're looking at the colors on the website for the eyeshadows, they really are not that helpful. They kind of have like a little color spot on what the color is, you know, supposed to look like, and then there's like a tiny little photo of the, you know, the product, so you could kind of see, you know, gauge the color, but I don't find them to be that accurate, and you can't like zoom in to see the photo close up. At least I couldn't from, you know, when I tried. And it would be really great if they either listed each color with a little bit of a description, or at least let you know if the shades are a metallic shade or a matte shade, because I picked out 4 shades and I wasn't quite sure. I kind of just guessed on what they would look like. I mean, I knew one of them would be purple, I knew one of them would be kind of a brownish shade, and I did the 2 metallics at least, and I didn't know for sure if they would be metallic or not, because they almost look, all of them look kind of matte, but then in the little photo of them they almost all look kind of metallic, so it's really hard to tell. And I was fortunate enough that one of the brown shades that I picked happened to be a matte shade, which is what I was hoping for a creased kind of transition shade, but it's actually a lot darker than I expected it to be, which is why I had to mix it with the concealer, and that's fine with me. I don't mind mixing and matching. That's one of the perks of, they said you could kind of blend the shadows together and mix them and stuff if you want to create custom colors. But I do think it would be really great if the website had listed them as matte or metallic, so you know, if you really want to get a matte shade for the crease or just lid or whatever you want to do, you know you're getting a matte shade, or you know you're getting a metallic shade. That also happened with the you know, there was a few kind of cream tone shades that I knew I wanted to get a color for, you know, a highlight shade, and this one definitely is a little bit deceiving. It's a lot more metallic and almost gold looking than it looks in this little tube, and so it really would have been nice to know that ahead of time. And obviously I did make them work, and I think you can make them work, but that's just the only kind of complaint I have. I would love to see either a little description of each shadow or it marked, you know, metallic or matte, so that you kind of know what you're buying. Otherwise you're kind of just guessing, and this is kind of like a little bit of a common theme that I've noticed with working with Luminous Air is I always seem to have a little bit of trouble inaccuracy of, you know, color. Even when I got foundation, it always seems like the color was either a little bit too orange or a little bit too pink. It was kind of hard to gauge it based on just the website photos of the true color accuracy. So that's something I would love to see adjusted or just improved on with the site, so you really know what you're buying in, because these can sometimes be a little bit expensive, so you definitely want to make sure you're getting, you know, the colors that you want and stuff like that. So that about wraps it up for my review on the Luminess Air eyeshadows and doing eyeshadow, airbrush eyeshadow makeup. I hope you guys enjoyed. I do believe I will also have a blog post to go along with this video, so if there's any more information, if I happen to get a discount code or anything like that for you guys, I will have it written out on my blog for you guys to check out, and I'll have the direct link to that post in the description box for your convenience, as well as links to Luminess Air and where you can purchase and all that stuff if you are interested. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do not hesitate to ask. I'd love to answer your questions if I can. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, much love and hugs to you. Bye, beauty babes.